Oh, happy Wednesday, people. Happy Wednesday. All right. So, here's what we got going on. For this week, I've gotten quite a bit of feedback on people really enjoying the back health stuff, the movement things I've been talking about. So, I want to continue elaborating on that, but I'm going to tell you guys, the more feedback you give me and questions, the better it'll help guide me and where I want to and can help. So, as we go forward with these educational things, if you will, a lot of this is derived from my own experience, other coaches' experiences over the years. So all this back health, back pain stuff is a lot of it's my personal experience, is what I'm reflecting from, and everything that I've learned in the process of healing my own spine and correcting some injuries there. So my brother and I, he hurt his back many years ago, and the video that this is going to prelude to is about the reverse hyper. And as we get into more movements, all right, there's one thing that came to my mind that I want to talk about that's important for you to understand. So when you're in an acute phase with a disc injury of your spine, all right, when that disc between your vertebrae gets messed up, all right, and you have a disc bulge or herniation of some sort, and you're in an acute phase injury, you need to be careful, all right? One of the things that I messed up on early in my own rehab and recovery was I wanted to keep moving. I wanted to keep doing things. It's like it's something that I can train through. And the reality is you can train through it depending on what's going on. Once we know what's going on, you can modify and work around things in an intelligent manner to keep that healing process going. But a lot of times we have to let the acute inflammation and that disc find its home. And there's things we can do, and there's things chiropractors can do, things that physical therapists can do, things that we can do inside the gym, training-wise, to help kind of facilitate that. But if you are in an acute phase injury, you got nerve pain running up and down your leg, hurts all the time, can't sleep, going and starting bending, twisting, and loading the spine with that going on is only going to make things worse, and it's going to make the recovery process longer. I'm telling you this from my own personal experience. I had a hard time letting go and not training and forcing myself to train through my last injury, which was, I want to say it's around 2017. I'm not exactly sure when, maybe 2016 is when my original injury happened with my back. And I was adamant about keeping training. It started getting a little better. And then I wouldn't fix my movement. I wasn't putting effort in my hip mobility. So I want to make sure that you guys, as we go forward with any of these joint things and, particularly around the spinal cord, to be very mindful and to be very understanding that if you're in acute phase injury, one, you might need real medical help, okay? My videos here might not be the cure-all, all right? And you should get an assessment, you should get an evaluation on where your spine is at, depending on what's going on. Again, I'm totally comfortable. If you're a member of the gym and you come and ask me, hey, what do you think? Should I be doing this? I will tell you honestly, no. Or maybe, but with these changes. Again, I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm just some random gym rat that turned into a coach and has been doing it for a long time. So, got pretty significant experience in helping people with back injuries and back pain over the years. That's where I draw on this knowledge to help you guys. But when it comes to an acute phase spinal disc injury, getting evaluated by a doctor, getting evaluated by a physical therapist, somebody, and or asking questions, making sure what you're doing is the right path forward, okay? So again, As we get into these movements with the reverse hyper, a lot of the more mobility stuff, for instance, we put the spine into flexion and extension. If we're doing that and we have an acute phase disc injury, we could be causing more harm than good if we don't know exactly what's going on with that back. All right? There's ways to kind of figure it out without imaging. Imaging helps. That's what helped me, is when I got my disc imaged, I could see where the bulges were, and then I was able to train properly to get things back into place. And ultimately, I grew up, got mature, just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit of maturity. I started really working on my hips. Now, I firmly believe hip health is the foundation of back health, all right? So often over the years, constantly hear people with back pain, gotta strengthen the core. We gotta strengthen the core. Gotta do my crunches, gotta get my planks. Okay, good. We do need to strengthen. We need a strong core, there's no question. But these folks then go and sit all day. Their hip health is trash. They have what I call dormant glute syndrome, where their butt muscles simply don't work anymore. That they can't even remember the last time their butt muscles were sore from like a lunge, heavy squats. They just have hip dysfunction. And when we have hip dysfunction and our hips aren't healthy, mobile, moving in the ranges of motion that they're capable of moving in, that can compromise our spine, particularly our lumbar spine, our S1, L5, L4, L3. Those bottom block of spinal column there can be heavily compromised if our hips aren't moving properly. So if we're asking our bodies to go into a full depth squat, but we don't have the hip range to do it, we're going to make up for it potentially with our low back, right? So same with any movements. Like if we don't have the range of motion throughout our hamstrings to hinge properly in a deadlift, there's a chance that we can be making up that lack of range with our low back, all right? I see it all the time, unfortunately. And that's one of the catalysts behind making these videos. So we need good hip function, right? So you'll see going forward, a lot of my strength training for my back has been very specific around getting my hips functioning well, getting my glutes working well, right? I'm very much a believer that a fat ass makes a strong back. PH fat, all right? We need our rumps to be strong and stable. We need our hip flexors to be mobile, strong, and stable, all right? We need our adductors working. We need we need functional range of motion. I think there's some confusion between full range of motion and functional range of motion. Do we need to be able to achieve a full splits to have a functional range of motion for adductors? Those are the muscles inside of our leg. I personally do not think so. Okay, I think we can achieve functional range of motion without achieving max end range of motion. Right? I do think that there is potentially loss of stability if we take the flexibility too far. Now, with that, that is not most people's problem at all. All right? So, working on your range of motion, strengthening, stabilizing, and gaining function through our hips will allow that back, that low back, to be stable. All right? So, again, this is going to prelude our first video on the reverse hyper. But I want to just talk a couple things about back anatomy and back health. All right? Now, I'm going to get fancy, and I'm going to get a skeleton thing at some point. I'm trying to find a cool one, right? I want one with muscles on it so you can like manipulate it and show like this muscle does this, because I know it in my brain, but I want to be able to show you guys, but I haven't found it yet. So today I'm going to use my words. So we have our low back, lumbar spine. We have our thoracic spine. We have our cervical spine. And I think I said this before, but our lumbar spine is supposed to be rigid and stable. This is supposed to be the load-bearing component of our spine, right? So when I see people trying to get super flexy and a lot of range of motion, trying to force range of motion out of their lumbar spine, it's not a good idea, right? It is not a good idea to force maximum flexion and extension out of our lumbar spine. This is supposed to be some rigid, very stable vertebrae. Same with rotation. We don't want a lot of rotation there, all right? You want to think your sacrum up through, L3, L2, maybe even right into the thoracic is stable. And then once we hit the thoracic spine, then we start getting more mobile, right? As we hit the thoracic into our cervical, where we have the most mobility, all right? So you want to think your mobility through there. So we want to work on the rotation, flexion, and extension of our thoracic spine, which is something I do need to work on. My shoulder, I think, is directly tied to the stiffness of my thoracic spine. Later videos. So when you're in acute phase back injury, don't try to stretch your low back. I've never seen anybody have success trying to stretch their low back, period, but especially in an acute phase injury. If you have a disc bulge or herniation in your lumbar spine and you're trying to stretch it away, I'm gonna implore you not to do that. Now, if you're working with somebody with a bunch of initials behind their name and they went to all that schooling and stuff and they're telling you to stretch your lumbar spine, I would say go get a second opinion from somebody else with initials behind their name, if you know what I'm saying, right? Again, not the doctor guy. I'm just some random dude who's been in the gym for a long time and seen a lot of human movement. I'd argue I've seen more human movement than most providers out there, all right? So I think there's some validity in that. So again, acute injury, you need to get with somebody who understands what's going on, all right? Please. Now, I personally, with 100% confidence, believe that most disc injuries don't need surgery. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of people. Big disc injury, doctors want to perform surgery, they choose not to. They follow, getting strong, stable, letting that spine rest, letting that disc find a new home, and building some rigidity, not flexibility, rigidity in their spine, flexibility in their hips, have amazing results in pain reduction and are able to get back to doing all the things they love, like me. For years, I woke up, couldn't tie my shoes. For years, I couldn't bend over when my kids were born and comfortably pick them up off the ground. My back hurt all the time with those disc injuries. And then I decided, am I going to get surgery or am I going to try to do this the smart way? Went the smart way, and at this moment in time, I'm sitting here pain-free doing all the things I love to do with my back. Shoulder, still got to work on. But my back is feeling phenomenal, strong, stable, doing everything that I want my body to do, both in the gym and outside the gym. So, a lot of blabbering there. Maybe you guys get some value out of it. Maybe you won't. But the way we can continue to grow together is you guys let me know what's going on, what you want to learn, what's been helpful, what hasn't been helpful. And we're going to continue to make this kind of content to coach beyond our classes to help you guys out online. All right. So by all means, give us feedback, criticisms, a little praise. I mean, we're never sad about a little praise, but if we can just know what is working for you, what's helping you, that will guide us down this new journey of being more active on the videos. All right. So the video that this is going to prelude, I think it's the right word, to is my brother and I getting into the details and the nitty gritty of the reverse hyper. It's been a very instrumental machine in both of ours past injuries. It's something I do regularly for my back health. I do believe it to be one of the single greatest strength training tools for strengthening and providing health and rehab for the spine itself. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a little long, but we get into all the details around it, how to train with it, how to use it, protocols, and again, that's going to jump right into from this to that. They're going to be connected. It's all one video, right? I'm recording it 2 different times, but it's going to be one video. You know, I've learned a few things about video, just a couple. So again, you guys, hope you enjoy it. Won't keep blabbering on here, and let me know how we can help you and what kind of stuff you want from us as we continue to progress these movements and learning together. All right, enjoy the video. All right, I'm back. Hair's done up, lights off, boom. Okay, walking out here, real time. My brother and I, we're gonna talk about the reverse hyper. And since he's the resident strong person still, even though how often you working out these days, homie?
I'm on 4 workouts in 2 months.
Well, I'm 4 workouts in 2 months. And the other day, he still squatted more than me. Now, granted, I can do 5 burpees, but I can't. Still stronger than me. So, real quick, reverse hyper was originally developed by who?
Louie Simmons.
Louie Simmons, Westside Barbell. The original reverse hyper to Double Edge Fitness is located at Midtown. This is a device that my brother brought into when we didn't even have Double Edge Fitness. He brought it into our lives. And what was the reasoning behind that?
My back was super jacked up.
My back!
Because Leo and I overtrained all the time, and my body finally said no more.
Seems like it's still happening. I mean, it's not from overtraining, but
not from overtraining, from being fat and having a kid.
They're going through that sleepless adjustment period.
But brought in the first reverse hyper because I couldn't tie my own shoes for about 4 to 5 months, and learned everything there is to know about getting strong through Westside Barbell and Louie's trainings and the benefits of the reverse hyper. And Derek and I bought one for our personal training, specifically me because I couldn't walk. Kind of use it on myself, and then I did it every single day for months. Got my back super strong, and haven't had any back pain to that nature ever since.
Right on. So in the upcoming video, I'm going to talk about things in the gym that I see and witness that cause some back dysfunction. But I'm down here with my brother. Reverse hyper came into his life and our life because of back pain. I've been very, open about my back issues that I've overcome. This has been a very key piece into my own recovery and strength. And like I told some members the other day, I PR'd my deadlift, lifetime PR my deadlift because of reverse hyper and TRT. That's the truth. So just being honest, you know what I'm saying? 40 years old, moving over 500 pounds.
Hell yeah.
This was a big part of it though. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, this strengthens your back, but there's no compressive load, obviously, right?
Yes. No. It's a rehab, prehab exercise. It is a decompression of the spine. It helps to regenerate new fluid in the intervertebral discs. There's a lot of science to it. There's a few doctors have done a breakdown on the reverse hyper. They have a breakdown on their website, on Westside Barbell's website, of the studies that they've done with this, and the doctors are even blown away with how big of a change that it's had with some of their patients, and how Louie developed this, which is funny because if you listen to Louie talk, I mean, he fortunately passed away last year, but If you listen to him talk, you wouldn't think that all that genius is up in that head of his, because he is an ogre of a human being. But how the machine works is it's a two-directional thing, that on the way down, it's decompressing the spine, so it's opening you up. So some of those guys that are powerlifting lift so much weight and squat so much weight that their spines actually shorten, because the compression on their back is so significant, because they're putting in excess of 700 to 1,000 pounds on their back. And so they'll quite literally get shortened up by like an inch of their height. So you take someone who's like 5'8", they'll be down 5'7" at the end of a training session. None of us are strong enough to really experience that kind of compression, but they'll use reverse hyper to actually bring back their
It's like
leg.
people worried about bar spin, huh?
Yeah. So they've measured some of these lifters before and after heavy training sessions like this, and they're literally shorter after they're done, until they do the hyper, and it helps open up the spine. So on the way through.
But that does answer my question.
Yeah.
I'm not strengthening my back under load, compressive load, because it's
With the
expanding.
hyper?
Yeah, it's stretching them out, not compressing. That's what I said.
It works as two ways. So it's like compressing the muscle, if you will, on the way up, but it's
So I'm talking
lengthening the
vertebrae.
spine. Yeah.
Because like when you back squat, all of your muscles in your stomach, erectors, hips, everything is super tight, but the load is compressing your spine. This is not compressing your spine.
The stronger and more muscular you are, the less compression you will have. To a certain degree, like, doesn't really matter how big you are. When you put 1,000 pounds on your back, it's still 1,000 pounds. Like, you can't really necessarily get that big unless, you're a silverback gorilla, and even then, there's probably still too much weight. But yes, there is no compression, if you will, through this. It's a decompression device.
So, yeah, that's what I was getting at, decompression. Now, before I show you this glorious machine that everybody in the gym has walked by, told numerous people and showed quite a few people how to use it, they still walk by it. The goal is to inspire you with this close-up of my face as I open down the tripod. So maybe pay attention to it. So we're going to turn this thing around a little bit and I'll find the spot. Maybe right there. All right, so we got the reverse hyper here. We have two different ones at each gym. Typically they're loaded with two different weights. One's what I call the heavy hyper, and the other one's the light hyper.
Yeah.
Me personally, correct me if I'm wrong, I do most of my reverse hypering, if that's the correct verbiage. 5 sets, 15 to 20 reps at around 50% or so of my body weight. I haven't loaded up heavy weight for two reasons. One, I'm too lazy to move the 100-pound plates. It
Yeah,
sucks.
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
And because most of my training involves high volume, I'm just a volume junkie.
Yeah, if
But
you're
talk about various protocols that you've learned in regards to using the reverse hyper.
If you could only use the hyper utilizing one form of weight, I would pick the lighter one and be able to build up enough volume where you can get to a point that you can do 100 in a row. With a 45 and a 25-pound plate would be ideal. Once you can get to that point, you know that your back is healthy enough that you can use heavier loads. Heavier loads are really only necessary for the strong, if you will. There's zero reason to do heavy, because heavy hyper, I don't know if you can tell on camera, this one is quite a bit thicker than this one. That's why this one here is constituted as the heavy hyper, because it can take more weight, it can take more swing without the whole hyper moving around. Like when I do heavy hyper work, I'll do anywhere between 400 to 500 pounds on the hyper for sets of 10 to 15 for strength training. And you're supposed to typically, from Louis' protocols and recommendations, you use the hyper volume based on the squat and deadlift poundage that you moved in your strength training session.
So this is something you do usually after a workout? I know you can do it before, but
I would do heavy hypers after. I would do light hypers before or after, but I would never do heavy hypers before normally. But everyone's gonna be a little different. From my own experience in training, strength training for years, I can do a lot of hyper work and heavy hyper work because I've accumulated so much volume over the last 12, 13 years that we've had this machine, that there would be a different protocol for me than there would be for someone who's only been training for like a year.
so basically what he's saying, this is very hard to implement in group class.
It is very difficult to implement in group class. Everyone is going to be different. It has benefits for everybody,
Yep.
whether you're the strongest guy in the town or the
Just getting
80-year-old
brand new.
lady with a broken back. Everyone can benefit from this. Your protocols are what you're trying to do. The specifics can change drastically based on what you're trying to do. For just general health and wellness, my go-to rep scheme is like a 4x20 with 45s and 25s. I find that as like a good like medium. So 140 pounds on the hypers, like you should be able to do that. Like I've had people, again, I'll just use myself here as an example. When we first got this machine, I had struggled just to use my legs in the strap with no weight for sets of 20. I remember putting on, they were kilo plates, so 10 kilo plates, so 25s for the gym, but the gym that we were at, everything was in kilos, so it was 88 pounds on there. And, or excuse me, not even 88 pounds because they're 24-pound plates. Yeah, right?
Can't remember, bro.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. 25-pound
Don't know
plates.
shit about kilos.
25-pound plate.
2.2 pounds in a kilo.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
couldn't get my math right. I had a 25-pound plate on each side, and I could barely do sets of 10. And I did this machine every single day for months until I got to the point where I could do it for 300-400 pounds. And it directly correlated to my health, my rehab, my prehab, and my strength training. So if you could only...
I can attest to this on his behalf, and also the effectiveness it's been for my own. My back is so much happier when I'm consistent with the hyper. And by consistency, for me, it's not every day, but it's every week, once per week guaranteed. On Thursdays, typically I do a lot of hip mobility work. That includes reverse hyper and volume, 100 to 150 reps. So I would say on average, I'm high volume once a week has been my maintenance, if you will, over the last at least year.
Yeah, I think you should have I use 3 different rep ranges. I have like the 1x100s or the 2x50s or the 4x20 to 25s or the 5x10 to 5x15. So like crazy light for the 1 to 100, 2x50, moderate weight for the 4x20, 25s. It's usually where I spend most of my time. And then the 5x10 to 15s would be like with the really heavy weight.
That 1x100 is a cardio workout for you, huh? Fuck.
That's cardio workout for anybody on there.
My forearms.
Even my
I'd
fat ass
have to
doing
use my
that.
wrist straps.
Yeah, doing 100 on that. It's about 3.5 minutes straight of doing reverse hyper.
I don't think I could do it.
It's hard. It burns quite a bit, but it is one of the only things that you can do in the gym because I mean, we're trying to get blood flow. If you're injured, you're trying to get blood flow into that site to help stimulate recovery, strength training, growth,
Blood
whatever. You want blood flow. The only way to really get
Blood brings oxygen. Oxygen brings healing.
write it down.
Yeah. Take that to the bank.
The lower back. So the lower back industry in the United States, I did a little study on this a while ago. I don't remember the exact numbers anymore, But back pain in the United States is somewhere like a $5 billion a year industry for people going to see doctors for prescriptions, or to get like back braces, go to like a Home Depot and buy, you know, the plumber's back brace and shit like that. Like, the industry is so massive for people having back issues, and all of that, but most of it is based around you can avoid all that back pain through proper strength training. It's a very small percentage of that is because of trauma. You know, someone got ran over by a train or got a head-on collision in their truck or something and has permanent back damage. Most of the back pain can be avoided in this country through strength training. And the beauty with this is you can load up the back without actually loading up the spine. So
see, that's what I was saying in the beginning. Now,
Yeah.
same page now.
I misunderstood what he was saying. So, like, doing let's go the complete opposite. Fantastic strength exercise, has more of a higher risk, high reward, would be the barbell good morning. So doing like heavy barbell good mornings is one of the best strength training exercises you can do for your back. Is it the safest strength training exercise to do? If you're prepped to do it. Cody likes to make jokes in the gym about how we had a barbell good morning day in group class months and months and months ago, and you record your weights and stuff like that, and like it wasn't necessarily for a leaderboard, but there was a leaderboard because you record your weights. And the second heaviest weight, so I had the heaviest weight of the day, was doing sets of 8 at 275 pounds on the barbell good morning, and the next heaviest weight that someone could do is 115 pounds. So that's just exemplary of how much I've trained my back from how messed up it was back in the past, and how extensively I've trained it through hyper work, good mornings, and everything, that my back is a lot stronger than most. So like, you put me under a barbell good morning versus
Me.
Derek, there could be two different outcomes. Like, the barbell good morning is not a super conducive movement for Derek because of his back issues, but it can be for me because I've trained it so much. Like, it can be a great exercise in the right circumstances, but this can be great for everybody and anyone, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. I would even argue too, because in the next video I want to talk about acute injury. When you're in an acute phase of a back injury, typically what happens for most of us, unless you're one of them super bendy people that go to yoga and shit.
Put lotion on?
Yeah, my hair. I had to do my hair.
Okay.
There's like 4 of you that are very concerned about my hair on my camera, so I did my hair. You have an anterior herniation. So when we bend over, Jake's gonna show you his ass, but the spine will flex and you have these discs in there, and the disc goes right out the back, right out that ass. Okay, so when you're in an acute phase with your back injury, back pain, these are 2 vertebrae stacked on top, hinging. Typically, you have an posterior herniation. It goes out the back. So a lot of times, any sort of loading where we're hinging and there's any buckling in that posterior direction, in an acute phase, it's going to make it worse because that disc is already bulging in that direction. But what this can do, even though we are hinging and moving the spine that way, you're also elongating it, decompressing it, and stimulating blood flow and oxygen into those discs and vertebrae, but it's creating space for that vertebrae to be able to come back in and heal. So even though we're getting flexion through the spine, we're creating space through the spine, which I think for me particularly, having my disc injuries down in my S1, L5, I believe through L3, the L5, S1 is my worst one. And that's right here at the bottom. It's your sacrum, and the L5, it sits on top. But creating space has allowed me to heal that over time, get my hips functioning properly has allowed me to stop compromising my low back and asking my low back to move, because like I said in the last video, we don't want our lumbar spine to move. Our lumbar spine is the base. It's meant to carry massive compressive load. It's not meant to rotate. It's not meant to flex. Thoracic spine, cervical spine are meant to rotate and flex, not our lumbar spine. So getting my hips mobile, I was no longer compensating by asking my lumbar spine to move. Next phase for my shoulder and my back is getting my thoracic spine more flexible as it should be. So I digress into this being such a healthy deal, like Jacob was talking about, is because it's creating space. So for that posterior herniation, it can allow that to reabsorb, those discs to reabsorb and create space. And in the process, you're creating rigidity in your spine with all the musculature to stabilize it, which is what it's there for.
So you can kind of think of like an illustration I can think of off the top of my head of how reverse hyper is working in your spine is if you take like those bendy straws that have the little, I don't know, like the perforations, like you can grab it and extend and bend them around or like make the straw shorter. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
How there's
I
like
literally
little,
like ripped one and stuffed in my face.
yeah.
This
So
morning.
it's those little like rivets, and then you can like make them longer or shorter. So if you take one of those bendy straws, so how this works is if that section right there, let's say your spine is all discombobulated, if you kind of pull apart the straw just a little bit and there's little imperfections and you leave it there and it's not completely extended all the way, the reverse hyper acts as you're taking that bendy straw and you're pulling it apart where all those vertebrae or bends in the straw straighten out. Like that's how this machine is working to help correct that. Now, if your spine is like, it's not going to cure, you know, a broken back, right? Like it's.
I mean, Louis Simmons developed it because he broke his back.
Yeah, Louis Simmons did develop this. Funny enough, talking about the good mornings, Louis Simmons did develop this because he broke his back doing good mornings. He was also doing sets of 10 with 405, and he said he wasn't paying attention and broke 3 vertebrae in his lower back, and then developed the concept of this. But the people who have super jacked up spines, bulging discs and everything that use this usually come back after some time has gone by and some consistency using this, that their symptoms have greatly decreased or if not completely gone away. Now, when you stop using it, it can come back just like anything, you know.
Kind of like drugs.
Yeah, if you stop eating healthy or you stop exercising, you gain weight, you get fat.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing here, which I've noticed. My training back when
Hey, stop training.
I was training all the time and doing this, I could do 4 to 5 sets of 100 reps in between my strength movements. And like I was pretty conditioned to do that. Like I was very much strength conditioned. I could out condition everybody in the gym when it came to strength training. Like my ability to handle volume with heavy weights and light weights was pretty high. Not so much anymore. I try and do something like that now.
It's coming back, people.
I'm fall apart, but you know, but I recognize that. So I think what we're getting at here is
This is a great
the reverse
great
hyper is
tool.
if you could only have one machine in the gym for general health, wealth, prehab and rehab work, it would be the reverse hyper, in my opinion. The only other machine that we have that kind of can do something, it not similar in the sense of like rehydrate the intervertebral discs like this, would be the belt squat. Would be the only thing that you could load up your legs without compressive forces against the spine.
Funny story. That's the other reason we have the belt squats, is because of my back injury. So things been added around the gym because of us hurting ourselves, and now we're bringing that experience to you guys.
Yeah. So there's definitely a right way and a wrong way to do it. So if you were unsure, just ask your coach.
Yeah, ask your coach, but guess what? I'm going to do you one better right now, 23 minutes into this clip. My brother's going to coach me on this thing.
Yeah, We'll show you how to do it.
Yeah,
Because there are very subtle nuances that you can do this wrong. So,
one of the main ones is jumping right off of it. That weight will come back and knock you on your ass.
So the one has nothing to do with like the machine, it has to do with your own intelligence.
Yeah, and athleticism.
When something is swinging in motion,
it's going to keep going in motion.
In that motion.
That's like
I'm sure there's some Newton's law in there.
That's some physics shit. So we're going to go ahead and use this one.
Yeah.
Now we don't have the I've been using the GHD piece.
Oh, we don't have a foot roller here.
I've been using that, but okay. So can you guys see my feet? No, you can't fucking see my feet. Lucky the double edge page isn't kid appropriate. Let's see.
Might be.
Oh, here we go. All right, there we go. Yeah, up close, personal. Mm-hmm. That's why we call this DE raw. All right, so now you can see the feet. Cool. Do you just want to take it from the top and guide me through it like I don't know shit?
Yeah. Okay, so depending on someone's ability and how flexible their spine is will dictate how far their legs will come up. There is a point where there is too low and there is too high. There, kind of like anything, there's a Goldilocks theory is what I like to say, that there's this just right place to live in. But this would be slightly heavier than what I would have someone brand new do. Normally there's 45s and 25s loaded on this, but we're going to imagine that that's the case. So what I would tell Derek is when he's stepping up, there's two ways to get into the hyper. There are these little steps, if you will, right here on the side. Is you'd put one foot on, you'd step up, you'd get comfortable. For him, he can reach out to the far handles for comfort here. So what I'm looking for is the spine is relatively flat. You'll notice a little bit of extension right here, so the back going like this, just a tiny bit. We want that. The hips are at the top of the pad. And what he's going to do, he's going to take about a rep or two to kind of get this thing going. So he's going to pull it back. But now what he's going to focus on is as the weight goes up, the head goes up with the legs. As the legs go down, the head goes down. So what we're trying to do, so right here, what I was saying earlier, when he's coming up, we're compressing the muscle. We're getting a lot of blood flow in the erectors. As he's going down with this, the reason he's tucking his head is we're trying to lengthen that spine as much as we can. So we're trying to lengthen the spine right here and compress the muscle here. Lengthen the spine, compress the muscle. Lengthen the spine, compress the muscle. You can go ahead and relax. Now when he comes out, he's going to follow it like that so he doesn't get clocked in the shins.
So that was a terrible, terrible dismount. Let me do one without thinking about it.
Okay. So there's a couple ways you can get out of it. I have my ways of getting out of it.
The safest way is to just resist it to a stop.
Yeah.
Resist it to a stop. The way I usually get out of it, you do enough, I take one leg out, and then I use my foot as a stop.
That's how I get out.
Do that one at your own risk. Again, me and him both have, I think, 13 years around this machine. But I've literally seen a woman, she was on this, hitting those reps good, just got off. And it fucked her up. I think it was 2 45-pound plates, and it came back and just busted her shins hard. Blood.
Yeah. Well, she was done with the exercise and for some reason thought that the hyper would just stop moving.
Yeah, Jake remembers that day.
I do.
It was at Midtown.
That was actually when we first, I think it was at the Mac.
That was at Midtown. I remember it in the back. Probably happened at the Mac too. Yeah.
He's out of breath. Yeah. I mean, do you feel a pump? In just those few reps?
Oh, yeah.
So, two things that you can screw up is not coming up high enough, okay? going up.
So
Going
yeah, so I see a lot of people. It's like right
Yeah,
here.
not going up high enough. Here you can actually, I'm gonna use you. Go ahead and get in there, bud. Do like some little baby reps. Okay. So like that wouldn't be high enough unless the person using it didn't have any range of motion there and like really struggled with this. Then we have a starting position. But this for him, I would say this is not high enough. Then there's the opposite, which is too high. Okay. Like you don't need to be going up.
Hitting the knees.
Yeah. And then there is the big one where people, when they get tired, where I yell at them. I yelled at someone the other day about this.
Not keeping tension?
Is they get tired and they start bending their knees like it's a leg curl. Doing that, okay? Yep. So, go ahead and relax. The legs need to stay straight because we are trying to load up everything in the posterior chain. So, you're trying to get tension into the spine. Good tension.
Correct. So,
And there are smarter people that have done breakdowns of like in actual labs and shit with this, like hooked up to monitors and studies that have actually broken down like how it affects your psoas and attaching up into your ribs. Like the benefits of this goes farther than what we just explained. But this is why we use it.
this is why we have them in both gyms. Two of them.
Yep.
They're not just there for decoration. This is something, for me personally, I would like to see a lot more members use, just on a kind of a regular prehab, rehab, health basis, not necessarily a strength protocol, but getting in here once or twice a week for some reps. I think everybody can benefit.
Oh yeah, everybody. You can hop in here, do 3 sets of 15 to 20 or 4 sets of 15 to 20 just as like a general protocol, no matter what you're doing, whether you're injured, trying to strength train or whatever. Standard weights, just know if you can't move around 45s, and there is one of the nuances I forgot to talk about why he was in there is when he's bringing his legs up, he's not just completely letting them fall. There is a very slight tension against the strap, like very little on the way down.
Loading.
A little bit. If you try and resist it too much, then you're not going to get the decompression on the way through.
You need that traction through.
Yep, a slight pull that when you're coming through, you're opening up.
But keep tension in the straps.
Yeah.
So you're using enough resistance. When people start swinging this thing and I see the tension in the straps start getting slack, just like on the row machine when the chain's just getting slack, there should be a constant tension all the way through. And what you couldn't see on the video, maybe you could, but I like seeing the weights come through on the other side to get what he's talking about, that full decompression. So.
Yeah, and you'll feel it. Sometimes when I'm really trying to search for that feeling of being decompressed, if you will, is I'll scoot up a little higher on the pad. So I really get...
Bros, you got to protect don't get a little pinchy, you know what I'm saying?
What?
A little pinch of the wee-wee.
Oh, yeah. Got nothing to worry about there.
Heard that.
So, fantastic machine. I know at the time we're the only gym in Reno to have a reverse hyper because I was obsessed with Westside barbell training and seeing what it did for all these elite powerlifters who have broken their backs, who do training even to this day.
We're no longer the only gym, but there was a period.
I
said we're no longer the only gym.
Yeah, we're no longer the only gym.
Other people caught on.
Like to think that we spearheaded some of that, but to see some of these elite lifters with broken backs and the stuff they do. I mean, the people that do this stuff, like Westside Barbell, if you ever have a chance to watch a documentary, Westside versus the World, it gives you an idea of their culture there. Reverse hypers and sled dragging are the two main rehab exercises that they'll do to bring back backs and knees.
And it's a great way to accumulate volume on those joints in a healthy manner.
Yep, you can't, what I tell anyone I have coming in here, you can't overdo this machine. You'll get, if you're brand new, you'll get sore from the hip pad. Like when I first started, I had literal bruising across my hips just because I have an obsessive nature, that I was doing this so often. But because of the non-destructive, let's say air quotes, load, non-compressive load, you can do this all the time. You're not going to burn out. It's not like doing back squatting every day is going to do more harm than it is good. You could use this every single day and be fine. You should do different protocols. To try a set of 100, that would be a session right there, one set of 100 with lighter weights. Doing 5 sets of 15 or 10 reps with very heavy weights, or 4 sets of 20, 25, or 30 with moderate weights. Like, you change it up like anything else, but you can't overdo this machine.
Yeah. It's very much the same as, so you have your rector spinae, you have your quadratus laborum. On the back side, on the front side, you have rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, your obliques, serratus anterior. You can train your core every single day. Train your trunk. So just like you can do ab work every single day, you can do the rest of the core, which is your posterior part of your spine, every single day. And just like you said, you just change up the stimulus. Do I think you need to do it every day? No.
You can even do unilateral work in here. I don't know how often you do this, where you put one foot on the step out of the way of the hyper, and you put one leg in and you work one side. If you have hip imbalances, you might notice that maybe your right side, as you're doing this, can handle it just fine, your left doesn't.
This is literally all brand new to me right now. I've never even considered this.
Unilateral movement on this, for that reason. If someone were to have inefficiencies in their hips because they're imbalanced, I would have them do that. I have also used this machine to do back rows. Go like this. You can get a massive pump and go like this. Yeah, so your limit is your ingenuity.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
You can on this guy right here, there's a bar at the bottom. You can hook bands to. So I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. This machine reigns king when it comes to strength training and rehab.
Yep.
Out of anything in the gym.
It allows you to create a really strong back without putting shear forces on your back. Like he was saying earlier, good morning being one of the highest risk, highest reward. For training your back, the risk comes from when you hinge over into that good morning with load. If your trunk isn't strong enough to keep the spine from shearing, that's where the massive disc injuries come. So we put 400 pounds on our back for a set of 10, and then our trunk goes relaxed. Say you take a deep breath. Whatever causes the stability to go limp, and that load puts a shear on the low back. Mostly the low back is where that shear is going to hit. That's where the massive risk. There is no shear force on here. So
Yeah, Lou is a smart bastard.
Yep.
And this is just one of the things he developed. He developed all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I love this. I love glute ham raises. We're not going to get into all that just yet. We will. I love back extensions, GHD. I love Nordics, reverse Nordics. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to teach y'all, and we're going to do it. We're all going to learn together. But yeah, reverse hyper. Talk to your coach. Obviously, Jacob's at the South Gym. I'm here. Our other coaches, everybody knows they know how to effectively do this. Protocols, just start playing with it. Like, your back will be happier for it. Your lifts will improve
with it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't have any back issues,
No, yeah.
it just keeps back pain.
We need to learn to train
at bay. Like you want to
preventatively.
yeah, like you don't want to train it when that thing happens.
Yeah. And I'm very guilty of that. It's like I'll go, up until this last year, I'd be like a few weeks back pain free, and then, I don't touch reverse hyper for months, and then it starts coming back, and then I'm hitting the reverse hyper. Now I've just committed, along with my hip mobility work, just being minimum once a week for volume. So, and again, I don't concern myself too much with the load for my purposes in life. I concern myself with feeling fatigue, and that's what I was saying in our last Thick Thursday, that I don't care if you're using 15 pounds or 30 pounds. It doesn't matter if you're not hitting fatigue. If you're just going for the standard, quote, 10 reps, but you don't hit fatigue, it was a useless 10 reps. So when we're training stuff like this, accessory movements, if you will, particularly, you need to train to volume regardless of the load, and you need to get to fatigue. Not burnout, but fatigue.
And I will say, there is a certain weight on this that you do want to get to. That's why I use the 45s and 25s as like a standard, because it's going to be enough tension to give you some traction, unless you're a big old bastard.
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't get that much traction from it. Not to sound arrogant, but because my back is pretty strong and I'm a bigger dude, I get some traction, but I don't get a ton of traction from that as like, let's say a 130-pound woman would. Where I see some people on here will put on like 5-pound plates, literally, I've seen this before, and do it, which if that's all you can handle for the concentric, the way up, that actually strengthening the muscle is fine. But when it's too light, at the same time, you're also not going to get it.
If you're training
to
the
get any
skill,
traction.
I'd say if you're getting used to the machine, but when there's anything less than 90 pounds on here, it's useless.
Yeah, I mean, if you struggle that much, like if you're going that light, you might be better served just doing back raises in the GHD,
Superman.
or just hopping on this and just doing it, just lifting your legs, nothing on your feet. Like you need if you're going for the traction element, you're not going to get it if it's not at least 100 something pounds.
Yeah. So did we cover it all? Most of it?
I think so.
Enough to be dangerous, enough to waste 41 minutes of your guys' life?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll get better. We'll get better at this, and
whatever, that 41 minutes was fucking fire.
We'll get better at it where we can take that 41 minutes and make it even more educational in 5 minutes. So,
hey,
we're learning.
You guys love it. Probably not, but you know what? That's what keeps me coming back. That's what keeps him coming back. It's because you guys, we love you. Stay healthy, and got any closing thoughts? So I can just run this bitch up more.
Listen to your coaches and ask questions. We can't, as Jerry Maguire would say, help us help you.
Yeah, help us help you. What do you want to learn? Learn the most. Let us know. Stay hard. I mean, that's David Goggins.
You gotta come up with your own tagline.
I don't even say that. Stay healthy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.